Hey, we're going to take a moment and dive into how your self talk, the words that you say out loud to yourself and in the privacy of your own mind, the things that you consume, whether it's TV, media, talk shows, music, how these things influence your mind to create your reality. So, I want to introduce you to the reticular activating system. If you are someone who moves in spiritual circles or circles where quantum physics is often talked about for manifestation, and people say things like, you create your own reality. What you focus on, you attract. This is part of what's happening here. So it's energy, it's vibration. There's definitely quantum involvement, but it also comes down to where our attention is. What we focus on grows. Okay. The reticular activating system is located in the brainstem. It's a part of what is called the reptilian brain. And it's referred to as the reptilian brain because this part of the brain is literally just our automatic processes. It manages our heartbeat, our blood pressure, our breathing. It modulates pain signals that come up and down from other parts of the body. When the fight or flight mechanism gets activated, signals are sent to this part of the brain and it causes all manner of things to happen within the body so we can survive. And the reticular activating system is a survival mechanism. When I say reptilian brain, I want you to think antiquated and old because this part of the brain used to solely be used to help us survive or thrive. And now in today's society, we're constantly bombarded with information and media and images. And there's societal pressures, peer pressures, all of those things. And we're influencing this part of the brain, and it doesn't know the difference between whether or not we're being attentive to make sure a mountain lion isn't sneaking up on us as we're hiking a trail, or we're simply hearing some conjecture or opinion on a news channel. The most basic function of the reticular activating system is that when you are asleep at night, it is the German Shepherd that's resting with one ear cocked up. If you've ever been startled awake in the middle of the night and you were awake for a second or so before you realized that what woke you up was a sound, this is your reticular activating system. It felt that there might be something you need to pay attention to and run from, so it woke you up. The second role of the reticular activating system is that it takes the information that it hears literally from the auditory cortex. It takes the information that we hear and the information that we see, and it primes our subconscious. It primes the limbic system to prioritize what information is important and what information can get discarded. Now, you'll see on this slide, it also says that there's input from tactile stimuli like touch, pain, and temperature receptors. Those are things like touch a hot stove, burn, right? Touch a hot stove, burn, or, walking barefoot on gravel, those types of things. It creates that unconscious, not even subconscious, it's an unconscious association. So that if we're, say you have kids, my kids had Legos, and my God, they would leave those little pieces of Legos all over the place. I didn't have to look down to make sure I didn't step on Legos because after a couple of times I accidentally stepped on pieces of Legos in my peripheral vision. If my peripheral vision saw a Lego, I would immediately slow down and look. So when you think to yourself, oh, that caught my attention, it caught your attention because your reticular activating system filtered that piece of information out of everything else. I'm going to drop a bombshell on you. Your conscious analytical mind can only process 7 to 9 bits of information per second. If you're not a computer person, imagine that you can write a word, but that word could only be 7 to 9 letters long. If you tried to write or type in a word that was 10, 12 letters long, those other letters are just going to disappear. We've all had that experience where you're typing in a new password or you're filling out a form on a website and they limit how many characters and you start typing and either it doesn't allow you to go further or it starts chopping off characters from the beginning. That's the conscious mind. Another way you can look at it is that when we go to the grocery store, say you needed to go to the grocery store for milk and maybe some fruit. And as you're walking out the door, someone in the house says, oh, can you pick up some toilet paper, paper towels, and maybe XYZ for dinner? So you're like, okay, let me get my running list, your mental list. You start going through the things they just added because in your mind, you're thinking you're not going to forget to get the milk. That's the whole reason you're going to the store. And as you're going through the store, your mind is your conscious mind is running through these things, and your conscious mind doesn't have the space to hold the milk, which was the initial thing you wanted to go get. So you get home and you realize you got everything, but the one thing you meant to get was the milk. That is the conscious mind. Your subconscious mind, it's debatable how much information it processes. When I trained in hypnosis, it was estimated at 20 million bits per second. 20 million. So 7 to 9 to 20 million. Some estimates now have it much higher than that. I think as we begin to get into quantum physiology and quantum biology, this number is going to explode. It could be a Google bits for all we know. If you don't know what a Google is, go search the definition of a Google in terms of numbers. If we were to consciously attempt to process and interpret all that information, if we had to interpret every bit of information that was taken into our brain, we would be exhausted. We would be overwhelmed. We would be overloaded within a minute of waking up. So the reticular activating system tells the brain which information to prioritize. That's why when you're walking through the house barefoot and in your peripheral vision, your eyes catch that Lego on the floor, it's going to catch your attention and you're going to notice it. That's a good thing. However, if you speak negatively to yourself, or if you speak to yourself in terms of seeking to avoid problems, your subconscious mind is going to look for the problem. Let me give you an example. If I said to myself, I am not going to drink soda today. I'm not going to drink soda. I'm not drinking soda. My brain immediately thinks of soda. I'm salivating. I don't keep soda in the house because when I'm around it, I do like to have soda. So I don't keep it here at home because it's not good for me. But we can't think of not having the soda without thinking of having the soda. So if you're telling yourself, I'm not going to have soda, your brain is filtering for soda. If you tell yourself, I'm not going to get in an argument with Kathy today, I will not get in an argument for Kathy today, your brain is hearing, look for an argument with Kathy today. Okay, that's what your brain is hearing. Look for an argument with Kathy. If you say, I'm not going to get anxious today, I'm not going to get anxious today, you're priming your brain to look for reasons to be anxious. You're telling your brain, we better look out. We're going to be anxious today. Why? because your brain cannot process negatives. This is true on so many levels. When people consume social media, think about algorithms on social media. If someone sees something that is highly inflammatory and is a threat to their sense of safety and security, say there's some a lawmaker talking about doing something, and one person's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. They watch that video. That tells the algorithm to show them more stuff like that. So we get an external confirmation bias because we keep seeing the same information over and over. But also, what happens is within the mind, everywhere we turn, when we see things that may not even be related to that, our mind is going to filter the information, the conversation, the images that come in. It's going to filter that information through the lens of, I have to be afraid of this thing over here. So if there is something in your life that you don't want, if you don't want anxiousness, if you don't want to be worried or fearful over money, if you don't want to be forgetful, if you don't want to be overeating, the list goes on and on. You've got to focus on what you do want. And what we do want does not come from, I will not have anxiety today. What we do want comes from, you know what? I am so at peace today. I feel peaceful and calm today. I am so excited. I can bring in money anytime I want. So an entrepreneur has control over when they sell, how they sell. An entrepreneur might say, I can bring in money anytime I want. You have to have that self-belief that you can sell and that you can put an offer out there and that someone wants to buy from you. So those are all things that you say to yourself. So we want to prime our brain with what we want. And you can even prime it to the point of being delusional, provided that you maintain awareness of your responsibilities. So for example, when it was before I went full time as an entrepreneur, I was challenged by getting fearful over money because I knew that I had to be able to carry the life insurance in addition to everything else. So I was aware that I had to 100% replace my income to be able to walk away from anesthesia. So people would tell me, well, you can't focus on not having it. You got to focus on the fact that you believe that you are successful enough that you have more than enough money to pay for everything. And I got into this conundrum over, how can I focus on that when I know I have bills? And the key came in is to have an awareness that I have responsibilities, but those responsibilities don't define whether or not I can bring in more than enough money. They're two completely different things. So focus on what you do want. I trust myself. We have to shift this entire dynamic from the cup half empty to the cup half full. I have all the information I need. I know how to find more information when I want it. I trust myself to make good decisions, and I trust myself to connect with the people who have the answers if I don't. We can fill those things in because when we live in anticipation that something unpleasant may happen, our brain automatically begins to filter what we're taking in around us so it can actually trigger that response in our brain. So it says here, the important stimuli is passed on to the brain. Who decides what's important? You do. You decide what's important. So be careful of your sensory diet, the music you listen to, the TV you watch, the news you watch, the social media channels that you take in. If you are someone and you deal with fearful thinking, anxiousness, you're worried about what's happening in the outside world, the most helpful thing you can do, I challenge you Take a 7-day social media and news detox. 7 days cold turkey, no social media and no news. And notice how much better you feel. We did this in a workshop that I did 2 years ago, 2, 3 years ago. It was a group hypnosis workshop. It was 10 weeks long. And we were talking about this, and I said, cut out all news, just drop it. And the people who did were so amazed at the improved quality of their thinking, their sleep, their focus, their whole quality of life changed, and that forever changed them. So be mindful of your thoughts. Be mindful of what you feed your brain. Oh, and one last thing. This is so important. If you were talking about someone else, say someone comes up to you and they strike up a conversation, and the two of you are talking about someone else in a negative way, your brain doesn't know that you aren't saying those words about yourself. I can't stress that enough. Your brain does not know that you aren't saying those words about yourself. It is literally just hearing the words. So I hope that you found this helpful. Write out positive affirmations, positive statements. Feed yourself with those statements 2, 3, 4 times a day. Set a reminder on your phone so that they pop up in your notes app. I am calm. I am relaxed. I am peaceful. I trust myself. I have the ability to find all the answers. Whatever those are, prime them. I see opportunities everywhere. This is another one important for entrepreneurs. If you're like, nobody's buying my stuff, nobody's buying my stuff, nobody's interested in what I have, then you're going to continue to focus your attention unwittingly on networking and marketing to the same people because you're telling your brain to look for those people. So I find ideal people every day. I speak to my absolute best clients every day. People come to me from unexpected places to work with me, and they are my ideal client. We have to prime those things in. Okay, if you have any questions, depending on where you are seeing this, my one-on-one container, Catalyst, wherever it may be, whatever channels are open to you there, just ask your questions. I'm happy to answer.